global, like she's the global player tonight.
We have a global player.
I'm American living in Germany, so
Yeah.
Of Serbian origin, so I have a couple hats on.
So we can't beat you. We can't beat you.
Very European perspective.
And we are live. This is so exciting. Hello, everybody who is watching. We're seeing some people come in through the webinar. Lots of people starting to watch on Facebook. Hello, everybody. My name is Antonia, and I am the representative for the 3 million and the organizer for the EU Citizens Week. So thank you, everybody, for joining in. Today, we are joined by some fantastic panelists and some fantastic organizations. I'm so excited for everyone to hear what they have to say, because 1, super important, and 2, super interesting. So it's going to be great. We're going to be talking about ways to engage in democracy. There's so many different ways you can get involved, and I will pass it over to Manolo to explain all the different things that we have going today and introduce our fantastic panelists. So over to you.
Yes, thank you very much, Antonia. Yes, I'm Manlio. I am a EU citizen. I'm based in UK, and very happy to talk to you all today and this evening about how to participate in democracy. We have a great panel with different ethnicity and different locations, and we want to talk to you about different ways of participating in democracy. And I want to start with a little story about why. So when something happens that feels wrong or difficult, and something that touches your heart and touches your soul, and you feel society is changing, I want to do something about it, politics should work in a particular way, I don't have a voice, something's happening and I couldn't have a voice. What do? Well, you want to engage in politics, and one of the things that you can do is just go to the street. Go to the street and express your feelings, express your ideas, and try and make that idea known to the rest of society and to the politicians. It is a great way of participating in democracy. But not necessarily always the most effective way. It gets the attention of people, but does it actually change policy? I'm not sure. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But anyway, it captures our heart, and that's what happened to me as well. When we had the Brexit referendum, I could not vote into that. I felt I didn't have a chance to say anything about this. Perhaps this is something I'm not quite happy with. I want to say my point of view, and you just go to the street. What we want to tell you about this evening is that there are other ways, innovative ways to join democracy, take part in democracy, because democracy is evolving, the way society is interacting is evolving, and we need to evolve different ways of taking part in democracy. So today we'll be talking about some innovation of democracy. We think there is some innovation we can trigger, but we start from the very basic of democracy, and the very basic of democracy is voting. And there's something really important happening in May in the UK, which is the local elections. There'll be elections in Spain, in Scotland, in Welsh, in England, where all EU citizens will have the right to vote, but it's important that we register to vote. So first key message today, bread and butter of democracy is voting. Have your say. And EU citizens, for the last time, will have the guaranteed right to vote in local elections. You have until the 19th of April to register to vote. If you're not registered to vote, go to the government website, www.gov.uk/register to vote, and register to vote, and then turn up at the ballot stations to vote at the local election. It's very important because EU citizens live here in the UK. We have to express our point of view, and it is right for us to do it. And we also want to do it to try and preserve the right to vote in the future. And that's our bread and butter of democracy, which we want to start with. But we want to take this a lot further tonight with a number of different initiatives which we want to talk to you about. And before I start doing that, we want to talk to you about the panelists we have today and the people we have today. I'd like to introduce you to Virginia. Virginia is the coordinators of Eumans. I am a Eumans activist and a Eumans member, and I think there's a lot of innovation that Eumans is bringing to democracy. And I'll pass the floor to her to introduce the rest of the panel.
Thank you, Manlio. Thanks everyone for joining. I've been a Londoner for 5 years of my life, so I feel particularly excited about being here tonight because it's in London where I learned what happens where you cannot use your democratic rights. So it's very important, and I use this opportunity to remind to everyone that is watching us online as well, also on the Eumans page, to, if you're living in the UK, to register to vote for the local elections. But tonight we are talking about the participation in politics from two additional angles. The first angle is the existing rights of EU citizens. And so we will have a first panel on this precious instrument of participatory democracy that is still available also for those of you guys and girls who still live in the UK, which is the European Citizen Initiative. And we will tackle that with Iago Rodriguez from the European Citizen Initiative Voters Without Borders, with Henri Tran, who is an activist for the StopGlobalWarming.eu European Citizen Initiative, and with myself, we will see how we can increase the knowledge about this specific participatory democracy right. And then we will have a second panel that is very exciting because it talks about an instrument that is not yet that popular and integrated in the democratic system, which is the citizen assemblies, or in the ideal scenario, sortition-based citizen assemblies. And we will talk about that with the Italian researcher Stefano Soggiu, and Diletta Milano, who is running a campaign in Italy for the institutionalization of citizen assemblies. And then last but not least, with Daniela Vancic from Democracy International, and also a fellow member of the coalition Citizens Take Over Europe, which is and with Daniela, we will explore the European level of European citizen initiatives, as well as a window of participation that is starting officially on the 9th of May, which is the Conference on the Future of Europe, which is an important passage of the European history, potentially, that is going to work out very well only if citizens are going to be truly involved in that process. So it's going to be a dance night, and after each focus we will have a bit of Q&A to ensure that everyone can ask questions and make comments. But I will now leave the floor back to Manlio to introduce us to the first bit of this panel.
Thank you very much, Virginia. And as we were saying, we want to present some innovation, and the first thing that we want to talk about is European citizens' initiatives, and explain what they are and why they can contribute to become an innovative instrument for participating democracy. I'm sure it's happened to many of you that you felt there was a proposal that you were interested in, and you come across a petition on your mobile phone to sign, maybe from a particular organization or institution, or a single person. You do, oh, this is a good idea, I'll sign that. But what happens when a petition is signed? Often we don't know what happens when a petition is signed. And I think the reason is because what's not necessarily clear is the context when a petition is signed and who goes to. And also for EU citizens, what is the instruments where we can use to make and propose change at pan-European level? It's not obvious what it is. And this is where the European Citizens Initiative may as a role. And this is, we're going to tell you about a lot of the European Citizens Initiatives. I'll give you some examples. We'll give you examples of Voters Without Borders and Stop Global Warming as two initiatives. And then Virginia will also talk about how on the 9th of May, we'll actually have, for the first time ever in our history, a new day, which will ensure that all EU citizens can have a moment to participate in pan-European democracy through European Citizens Initiatives. So we'll get there at the end of the panel. But I think to start with, I'll ask Virginia to explain what are these European Citizens Initiatives? Why are they different, and what are their characteristics?
Thank you again, Manlio. So let's start with a simple definition. The European Citizen Initiative is an instrument that is provided by the European treaties. So it's an official instrument available for European citizens to ask, to propose a reform to the European Commission in the matters where it has competencies. So you can't activate a European Citizen Initiative on whatever, but it needs to fit into the competencies of the European Union. And the European Citizen Initiative is basically a simple proposal. So it's not a law with all the details of a law, but it's a direction, an indication of how our policy can change within the European Union. To achieve the discussion within the European Commission, a committee of citizens and supporting organizations needs to achieve 1 million of signatures across the European Union in a certain time frame, so within 12 months, usually. With the pandemics, this thing is a bit changing at the moment, but that's in a nutshell. So all European citizens that have the right to vote have also the right to sign European citizen initiatives. If the 1 million of signatures is collected, reaching a certain threshold in at least 7 EU member states, then the European Commission is obliged to have a discussion on the topic and explain if and how they will take action on that. Since last year, there is a new regulation for the European Citizen Initiative. So combined to the discussion within the European Commission, there is also an audition of the promoters of the initiative within the European Parliament. It's a powerful instrument in the sense that I think, and this is the value that we give to that as humans, it's an institutional hook to your proposal addressing the institution. So it's not a simple petition in the sense that it's not just about collecting the signatures and making noise, but it's also a way to hold the institutions accountable for the energies and the efforts that a group of citizens put into this democratic effort. It's a bit it's slightly different than other petitions to collect the signatures on European Citizen Initiative because you are required to fill a lot of data depending on the EU member state. So you might be required to add your ID if the regulation of your member state requires that. And so usually people are a bit distant from this because they think, oh, who this data is going to? The reality is that this data going only toward the collection of the 1 million signatures with the purpose of triggering the institutional prosecution of the request within the EU institutions. So it's a very precious instrument. It's a way to hold the EU institutions accountable for citizens' proposals, but it also offers another important opportunity, which is to create a European and pan-European engagement on certain topics, crossing the borders between member states, but also localizing specific matters from a European perspective within the national political debates. It's pretty much unknown. It makes more noise in the news usually to take over the streets with different degrees of aggressiveness. It makes more the noise of in the media, of the silence in the media to demonstrate, or sometimes to use petition that gets millions of signatures but have no connection with the democratic process. However, I think it's quite revolutionary to engage as EU citizens using the instruments of European Citizen Initiative, because the proposals that can be carried through this instrument can be quite important and reformative for the EU institutions. And I think the speakers that we have tonight from two different angles will show how, in which sense and what it means. So we will go back to the point of the EU Sign Day later on, but in the meantime, I encourage everyone to start to familiarize with this term of European Citizen Initiatives, because it sounds normal, but is a powerful instrument of participation that is potentially a way also for EU citizens living in the UK, a way to keep their voice within the European Union political debate. And who knows if maybe the UK itself will be back sometime soon.
Thank you, Regina. So, and this is an important point. Every EU citizen can sign and support and propose a EU citizens initiative, regardless of where they live. So all the EU citizens who live in the UK can absolutely sign the European Citizens Initiative. But just to kind of paraphrase this instrument, this is a direct line with the European Commission, with the EU Commission. The proposal is vetted by the European Commission before it goes live, i.e. it needs to be admissible. It needs to be a proposal over which the EU Commission can legislate, and then the Parliament can legislate. So we know those a proposal can become reality. And it's a place where all EU citizens can join together in one proposal. So it's quite powerful in terms of bringing EU citizens across member states together on a specific proposal. And this reminds me on, the people, the EU citizens going into the street to request the second people's vote after the Brexit referendum. And a lot of them were people who could not vote on the first referendum because the EU citizens did not get the right to vote on the first referendum. And they might have started the thinking that Iago and the Voters Without Borders team have put together to come up with this revolutionary instrument, which is the European Citizens Initiative and the Voters Without Borders. So Iago, do you want to tell us about Voters Without Borders? What is the proposal? How did it start? And then how can, if people like it, how can people support it?
Thank you. Thank you all. I'm going to share my screen. I hope you can all see it. Thank you for passing on the floor. So yeah, I'm a member of Voters Without Borders, which started as a group of Erasmus students. And Voters Without Borders was born from the reality of 40 million Europeans whose voting rights are restricted simply because they chose to exercise their freedom of movement. So to summarize the problem, too often cross-border Europeans are forced to choose between either exercising the freedom of movement, risking that they might lose their rights to vote and stand in elections. At the moment, these cross-border Europeans are allowed to vote and stand in local and European elections in the member state where they reside, but this does not apply to regional or national elections nor referendums. And this is, of course, despite their contribution to the communities where they live, of course, through taxation, but through other means of social and political engagement. Some of them can participate in elections held in their country of origin, but this is usually very complex, either due to bureaucratic barriers or sometimes registration procedures that are incompatible with standard 8-hour shifts. In the case of Spain, countries that force nationals abroad to incur the transportation cost of casting their ballot from another country. So basically they have to pay to vote. And then we get other countries, a situation that is even more worrying, that countries that disenfranchise their citizens after they have lived abroad for a certain period of time. In the EU, these are Cyprus, Denmark, Germany, Ireland, and Malta, and also the UK while it was a member. So for instance, a citizen from Denmark living, let's say, in Brussels, will not be able to vote neither in elections held in Denmark nor in Belgium. So the citizens are in all respects completely disenfranchised, and they are so precisely because they chose to exercise their freedom of movement. So Voters Without Borders strives to put an end to this, and through adopting one of these few participatory democracy tools that are available at an EU level. Our proposals can be summarized in 3 main points. The first one is to reform these expatriate voting systems that I was talking about, with a view to maximizing participation from abroad, facilitating family work conciliation, lowering barriers to registration, and of course ensuring that no citizen has to pay to vote. More specifically, this would take form of the creation of help desks for immigrant communities to be informed in their preferred language about their rights to vote and stand in elections. And the third part of our proposal is to make sure that cross-border Europeans can choose whether to participate in the political life of their country of origin or on the political life of their country of residence. And this would take place by expanding these current rights so that mobile citizens can choose to vote in regional, national elections and referendums, also in their country of residence. We think that the right to vote in regional elections is actually an extension of the existing right to vote in municipal elections, simply because the locality where one resides, what we're seeing, we think this is the structural change that is taking place. And if we look at cities like Vienna, Paris, Hamburg, or Madrid, we see that this is has already taken place. That is, that cities are becoming very undifferentiated from the region. With regards to national elections, we also want to expand this current right to national elections precisely to tackle the problem of disenfranchisement that I was mentioning before. I mentioned the Danish case before, but Ireland also disenfranchises its citizens. So our proposal would ensure that the citizens retain their voting rights. And we also want this to cover referendums. In fact, since the Maastricht Treaty, 50% of referendums held in European countries have been either about the EU itself or about EU shared competences with member states. And in fact, the origin of Voters Without Borders is very much tied to the Brexit experience. As you know, as Manley was saying, and as you all probably know, at the time of the Brexit vote, there were around, I think, 1.3 million British citizens residing in the EU, and 60% of those could not vote in the referendum because the British citizens are disenfranchised after they have lived abroad for 15 years or more. And then, of course, the other side of the coin were the non-national European citizens residing in the UK who did not have a say either. So our proposal, of course, if we reached the designated signature threshold, would ensure that in the event of a similar referendum, these transnational communities that are the ones that are most affected by a decision such as this one could have a say on the life of the political life of their country. The initiative was launched. The initiative was launched on September the 1st in 2020, this last September. And so far it has gathered considerable support from various media outlets, from human rights organizations and civil society, and also from within European institutions. These are some of the photos of the launching event, where we combined a bit of online and face-to-face as it was possible. And in fact, on the same very day that we officially launched the initiative, the European Commission published its 2020 citizenship report, where it acknowledged our ECI, and it included some, not all of our proposals. Basically, it included the creation of a help desk to inform mobile citizens of their right to vote and stand in elections in the country where they reside. And it also included an opinion poll, where 60% of respondents said that they would be in favor of EU citizens voting in their country of residence, which we thought was very stimulating for our initiative. And then...
So Iago,
yeah.
You mentioned, we have freedom of movement, which is in the European Union, which is a great thing. People can move around. But what happens when people move around and they settle somewhere? Actually, we don't have full voting rights. And what this is trying to address is making the European citizenship stronger, because in addition of having freedom of movement, we want to carry with us the basic rights of taking part in democracy, which is having a vote. And so in my example, which I exercise my freedom of movement right, moving into the UK, I would have had the opportunity to at least express my vote for the many national elections, as well as the Brexit referendum, and take part in democracy. And when you take part in something, it's easier to accept what the majority has to say and the result. Whereas when you feel excluded, you get this sense of disenfranchisement, becoming excluded for the society, which is very, very bad. And so I can see certainly that what this is addressing is it is a core issue of making European citizenship something stronger, because people, not in addition of being able to move around, they also would be able to participate in democracy and be part of their community fully, wherever their new home will be. And if people want to support this, how can they do it?
They can, of course, they can sign the initiative, but then there are many other ways to, this QR code right here will take you to the page where you can sign the initiative. You can also share it on with your local communities, with the people you know that might be interested. And I think the important thing to highlight here is that the migrant experience is not something that you can generalize. Some people move countries and they still want to be part of the political life of their country of origin, and some want to integrate and take part of the political life in their new country. And I think what we want to avoid is when one feels, as you were saying, totally excluded from the society that one wants to take part in, and to make sure that people who leave their country are still able to take part in the political life of their country, of the country they left, if they want so. And if they don't, if they have been living for, I don't know, 20 years in a new country and they want to, decide where their money is being spent, that they can also do so. So I think that's the main takeaway.
We have a comment from Gunter on the chat. He says, sounds like a good idea. I'm from Germany, and the argument for being disenfranchised was that you become disconnected with German politics when you move abroad. It used to be the case and was a valid argument. Of course, it means that you then are connected with the politics where you live. So you should be able to vote there, which you can't at the moment. So it makes a great point, Gunter, on the chat. I'm not sure whether people can join in for questions, for voice questions. We'll let Antonia tell us that. And you mentioned, Iago, that this QR code takes you to the website. What is the website? If people want to sign, where should they go?
It's a website, it's a platform put on by the European Commission, and you just write on your name and your country of origin. You have to be an EU national. And
what is the web address? VotersWithoutBorders.eu.
I will send it now to the chat.
Yeah, or you can say it.
Oh yeah, VotersWithoutBorders.eu is our webpage, but I can.
Excellent. Excellent. Right, let's remind that. We got some question from Joe. Would you need to live in your new country for a particular period of time? Well, I think. Do you want to take this question, Iago?
I mean, of course, it's not, as Virginia mentioned before, the proposal, we don't make the proposal with the exact details as it would be passed. But yeah, I think it would be as it works already within the nation state, right? If you have to register beforehand, you have to have lived for a period of time before you can take part in the votes.
Yeah, and I will say European Citizens Initiative give you a simple proposal, then clearly the European Commission will then need to legislate, and then they'll put rules around it. The concept here is that the Voters Without Borders say we want to make sure everyone has got access to, has got the right to vote. Then clearly the specific rules then will have to be legislated by the European Parliament. Well, thank you very much, Iago. That was a really great example of how you and the Voters Without Borders team have come up with a fantastic idea to improve the way citizens can take part in democracy. And any EU citizens, if you like this idea, go to VotersWithoutBorders.eu and sign the proposal. If we get 1 million signatures, Iago and the team will sit in front of the EU Commission and they will tell them why EU citizens like this idea and why the legislations should change. And but you know, you can think about European Citizens Initiative in many different topics. And what we want to bring to you is a different topic, which shows you that the European Citizens Initiative tool can be used by citizens to make change in the things that matters most to us. Voters Without Borders, clearly an important right to fight for, but what about climate change? This is the next generation epidemic. You know, the earth is melting down. If we don't do something about it, all of this will be gone. So, Henry, you're here to tell us about Stop Global Warming. Tell us about the proposal. What is it? What is the proposal about, and why it is so important?
Thank you, Manu. Thank you for the invitation. I'm not 100% sure people will understand my French accent, so I have a presentation as well. Something visual, maybe easier as well. Up. So, second example of European Citizen Initiative is called Stopglobalwarming.eu. So, easy to remember. So, it is to fight climate change. So I guess everybody hears in the news about climate change. We hear it every day, and it's definitely probably the defining issue of our time. We see flooding, we see a fire in California. Greta Thunberg has mobilized millions of people across the world to raise awareness. And it can be overwhelming to see all this news daily. So what can we do? We're here to propose a solution. So the idea is not our idea, it's an idea to put a European carbon price. It's an idea from 27 Nobel Prize, 5,000 economists. So basically, if you're an economist, and if you ask an economist what is the solution to solve climate change, they will say carbon pricing is like unanimity. For example, the Secretary of the Treasury of the US, Janet Yellen, is for carbon pricing as well. So at the moment in EU, the carbon pricing is discussed between the Parliament and the European Commission. It seems that the German will be positive about this idea to expand the European emission trading system. It's the mechanism we currently have, because a lot of sectors are not covered by this trading system, and at the same time, it will be to put a carbon border adjustment mechanism. So it's currently discussed. Unfortunately, the first round of the battle has been lost at the EU Parliament. More MEPs have voted against they voted against the suppression, the deletion of the free quota, which will weaken this proposal. So the plan is where we need your help. So what you can do is to sign now the petition StopGlobalWaming.eu. The deadline is the 22nd July 2021, and as it has been said, we need 1 million signature. If we have 1 million signature by 22nd July 2021, the European Commission and the European Parliament will have to listen to this proposal, and at the same time, it would strengthen the MEPs who want a strong carbon pricing. So, as it has been mentioned maybe earlier, of course, your personal data are protected. Don't worry about it. So you just need to take your passport, your ID, go on StopGlobalWarming.eu, and it takes 2 minutes, and you can help to solve climate change. So the text, what does the text say? The full text of the initiative. So the objective is to tax CO2, to limit temperature increase to maximum 1.5 degrees, to keep our planet habitable. And then, so technically, what does it mean? That means we propose to put a price now on CO2 of 50 euros per ton from now. It will be progressively increased to 100 euros by 2025. At the same time, as I was saying, abolish the free allowance to EU polluters and introduce a border adjustment mechanism at EU borders. And of course, all the revenue of this tax will be used to support renewable infrastructure creation, energy savings, and as well a reduction of taxation on lower income. So basically, to shift the tax on the labor from the labor to the pollution, the CO2. So as can say, you can sign now this initiative. It has been, I have to say, it's a big movement, which started in Italy. All the big media talk about it. La Repubblica, Elle Magazine, Rolling Stone is literally everywhere. And at the same time, people and famous people have already signed it. You have like famous Italian actors, famous singers. You have more than 50,000 citizens. You have a famous influencer. So we need to expand this movement beyond Italy to the whole EU, to the whole countries, to have this 1 million signatures. And I think
thank you, Larry. And what struck to me from what you were saying is that millions of people have demonstrated on the street with Greta and all over the world. But actually, go to the street, very important, but difficult to go in front of a politician, in front of a parliament and say, I have a proposal. Here, the revolution is, we need 1 million people that can sign up to this. And then you go in front of the EU Commission and you say, look, there is a proposal in place we can do something about. And the proposal, oh, did I think of how could I have thought about it before? 27 Nobel Prizes have thought about this, 5,000 scientists have thought about this. So I think it's fairly well widely supported. And this, as you say, big wide movement, lots of testimonials have been seen across all of Europe for this proposal. And every EU citizens can just sign up and say, yes, go. They give you the mandate to go to the EU Commission. No party politics here. It's just, this is the right thing to do. Go to the EU Commission and make the case for start putting a price on pollution, tax pollution more than labor. It's quite a cultural shift and a cultural change. So it's a great initiative and really, really essential. But my next question would be, okay, you said people can do it until the 21st of July, but I'm busy today, I'm busy tomorrow, and I'm not quite used to this, because often when I need to say something, there is an election, there is a day, I go to the polling station and I sign, I express my vote. I'm not quite used to this thing that every day I go and sign a petition. What can we do about this? I think Virginia has got a great idea for us.
Thank you, Manlio. Sorry. Thank you, Manlio. And thanks also for Iago and Henri for the presentations, because I think it's fascinating to see how citizens develop a knowledge on matters that becomes a political, in the purest sense of the term, action, and it's super fascinating always to listen to this. So what you can do, what we will do, we are launching EU Sign Day. The name is weird in English, but it sounds cool because it's EU Sign and EU Sign Day, pun type of thing. And we will hold this day in collaboration with the promoters of all the European citizen initiatives that are ongoing right now. So we're going to share the link later on to the official website of the European Commission, where you can already find these initiatives. There are currently 14 European citizen initiatives that are engaged in collecting these millions of signatures. And we will launch this EU Sign Day. Tomorrow we're going to have a first presentation meeting for citizens and organizations. So you can join us at 6 p.m. for that. But the idea is that on the 9th of May, we're going to call for this EU Sign Day with a double purpose. The first one is kind of symbolical, but not that much. 9th of May, for those of you who don't know, is the Europe Day. So it's the day when European Union celebrates itself for its past. And the idea of calling for the EU Sign Day on that day is to also celebrate the future of the European Union. This proposal, we have just seen 2 of them, are quite revolutionary. And the idea is that there are so many citizens' committees engaged in this type of proposals that it's right to give the maximum visibility to this instrument on the day where Europe celebrates itself. The second reason to do that on that day, and we're going to see this later on, particularly with Daniela Vancic from Democracy International, it's the launch of the Conference on the Future of Europe. And therefore, it's a moment where the EU institutions have their ears open to listen to citizens' proposals. And bringing European Citizen Initiative matters within that context is quite important. But the whole idea of the EU Sign Day is to not have that only this year, but to create a moment, a day, when all European citizen all European citizens feel that they have an opportunity to discover which are the European citizen initiatives on the table, and to be called by the EU institutions themselves with the same effort that usually is used for the election day of the European Parliament, to use the right to sign one, all, or some of the European citizen initiative. So it's a quite powerful experiment that we're running also in collaboration as Eumans with a lot of organizations, particularly the coalition Citizens Take Over Europe, Democracy International, Alliance for Europe, New Europeans, and a lot of them, those of you that are following the festival in these days have already met some of them. And the whole goal is to really drive the attention of EU citizens on these political rights. As I said, we will present this initiative tomorrow at 6 p.m. So you can join us. Link's gonna be shared soon, because the whole idea is how the EU Sign Day symbol can be integrated in any activity that will be done around Europe Day, before Europe Day, and in the build-up of the moment. Participatory democracy instruments are very powerful in terms of the connection that they create between the citizens and the institutions. The only problem, and it's not a small problem, is that they are mainly unknown, and therefore the impact that they can have can seem quite limited. But imagine if in the political debate that you see every day in the news, on the social media, you would have also the voice of citizens that decide to actively engage with politics, not running for service, but for bringing certain proposals within the institutions. So you are all invited to the Youth Sign Day. Follow us on social media channels to learn more, and sign up for the meeting tomorrow if you want to see what you can do as a citizen to take part in this shifting moment of the European Union.
Thank you, Virginia. And talking about participation in democracy and innovation, we want to present and discuss something new as well, some other tools. I should also say, if you have questions, make sure you write in the chat, stick your hand up, you can join and ask your questions. We'll be delighted to answer that. But the second part of our panel today will talk about another revolutionary instrument, which perhaps, again, maybe not so known, perhaps a bit more, but is based on some quite interesting concept. Virginia, do you want to kind of lead us through this second part of the panel and talk about the citizens' assemblies and what they are, and lead us through with our panelists to describe how citizens can engage in citizens' assemblies.
Ready to do that? Listen to me? Yes. So yes, citizen assemblies. So we organize the panel in a way that is going to guide us through the concept, and then on some specific articulation that are currently being fought for at a national level in Italy and at a European level with Citizens Take Over Europe and Democracy International. So the first speaker is Stefano Soggiu. Welcome, Stefano. Stefano is a super duper expert of participatory democracy with a passion for the specific instruments of sortition-based citizen assemblies. So Stefano, can you help us to get into the mood of the citizen assemblies, why they are important, why they are an innovation that democracy needs, maybe particularly in this historical moment as well?
Sure. Hello, everyone, and very kind of you to define me like this. And I also prepared a slide share to fix some bullet points about citizens' assemblies. Now I'm going to share my screen, and I have this. Okay. Can you see it?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Okay. So citizens' assemblies, what they are. Okay, let's start with the crisis of our democracy and what are the factors of this crisis. So we can observe a lack of representativeness. Several categories of people, layers of society are underrepresented now by the traditional means of representation, by their gender, their age, the fact that they are immigrants or sexual orientation. And then we have also the fact of short-termism. The traditional political organization and also politicians themselves act to be re-elected most of all, and thus to obtain a kind of a short-term consensus. Then the problems, the issues are really complex. while politics is often not capable to reflect the complexity and to respond to it accordingly. And finally, the high level of competition. Politics is too often adversary and concentrate on, most of all, on defeating a counterpart rather than find cooperative solutions. So how to respond to the crisis? I think enhancing the representation of the weakest, and also building a decisional environment that fits long-term issues and dilemmas, not only focusing on short-term issues, and reflecting the complexity by including several voices, and finding cooperative ways, tools and means to make decisions, and empowering citizens by involving them in decision-making processes. And so citizens' assemblies, in a certain way, is a tool that can respond to some of these, can give an answer to some of these issues. And they come from an ancient tradition, the Greek boule and some sortition institution in Florence and Venice during the Middle Age and Renaissance, to 70s citizens' juries by Ned Crosby, Jefferson Center, and 90s deliberative polls by James Fishkin at Stanford. They are, we can say, they are part of the genius of a deliberative democracy. That is a democracy that comes to collective decision mostly through information and collective discussion of pros and cons, and then to reaching a consensus. They are formed, they are constituted by citizens sorted by lot in statistically representative samples named mini-publics, sort of a miniature of a society, including different social strata. And the number of participants may vary from 10, 15 to 100, 150 citizens or more. They can be promoted by institution itself or themselves, or on citizen demand by petitions. And they discuss relevant societal issues to come to verdicts that can be adopted by government, which is not compulsory. And there are many examples in OECD countries, most of all in Canada, Denmark, Germany, Australia, that are reported in a recent paper by OECD named Catching the Deliberative Wave. And there are also many cases in the UK, in England, about climate change, in Scotland, about future of the country after Brexit. And we have to say much less in Italy, unfortunately, but we are trying hard to improve by an initiative named Politici per Caso, which is a network promoting a popular law initiative aiming to establish citizens' assemblies at several level government, from national to regional to local. And we have to say that democracy tend to be more deliberative in advanced democracies with the highest democracy indexes. And to focus on Politici per Caso, we must say that Politici per Caso is a network, is a coalition of several partners association that are trying to promote a popular law initiative, a draft, aiming to establish citizens' assemblies at different level, as I said before. And now Politici per Caso is going to start the collection of signatures to enter the draft law in the Italian Parliament discussion. And it is also part of a broader international network of partners that are trying to promote deliberative democracy worldwide. So we can sum up, I think, with pros and cons of citizens' assemblies. Deliberative democracy is an important, a relevant part of democratic ecosystems. It has to interplay with other kind of democracy, adversary, direct, and also consociational democracy. And it is the deliberation is also a way to interpret democracy as a whole, as a tool among other tools in a broader public sphere that should be more deliberative, even in parliaments. And citizens' assemblies are emerging as the most recurring format of deliberative democracy tool worldwide. There are also other formats that are very important in participatory democracy that are worth noting. There is participatory budgeting and also débat public on infrastructure in France. Is a kind of statistical representativeness. And they also surely guarantee a deeper understanding of issue and deliberative quality because of the quality of discussion, of the deepening of issues. But they per se doesn't assure that the whole public sphere is involved in deliberation. And also, we must say that governments at the moment, at present, are not bound to implement citizens' recommendation emerging from the citizens' assemblies. So summing up, citizens' assemblies, I think, are a really promising format that have to be implemented more and more, increasingly in the field, that have to be more linked to the whole public sphere, and which recommendation have to be enforced to improve, and so became an effective response to the crisis of our democracy. So I think that's all. You have some links here, and thank you.
Thank you, Stefano. It was very thorough and rooted in history, which I think it's an important element for those who are concerned about the sortition element. So we now have Diletta Milana, who is the co-founder of a startup called Yesers, and also the vice coordinator of the Politici per Caso initiative that Stefano mentioned. So I'm very happy to have Diletta with us to talk us a bit through the Italian proposal, because again, it's an interesting combination because it combines the request for citizen assemblies through the activation of the participatory democracies process to activate a new law in Italy. So it's kind of a mise en abîme. So Diletta, that's your turn.
Thank you very much, Virginia, and thanks a lot also to Stefano, who provided a very complete and interesting introduction. So I would add just a few elements on top of that, but I think we already have a good idea of kind of what we're going through right now. So we already know what a citizens assembly is, and we know that it's been applied in a number of countries in Europe and in the world. Just to mention a few, as it was mentioned before, from Canada to Ireland, from Belgium to Australia, from UK to France very recently, and not to mention Italy was not a part of that. There were a few smaller experiments going on for the past years or months, but we're trying to take a step further on that. So Politici per Caso was born actually, talking about history, was born in 2019 as an idea proposal, but it just 14 days ago opened its seasons of signatures being gathered. So you can do that. You can also sign to support this initiative on our politicipercaso.it website, as Stefano shared. And our objective here is to promote a citizens initiative to bring the citizens assemblies in Italy on a national level as well. And our main focus, our starting focus, will be the climate change. So we have seen in the past years, it was mentioned before also by Stop Global Warming, the policies that we have, that governments and institutions around the world have taken so far have not been enough in this sense. And we think that the approach of citizens and the involvement of citizens would bring a very conscious and a very relatable approach to this problem. It is often said that why should citizens be aware or competent enough or educated enough to talk about issues of this this size? And we actually think that actually the citizen assemblies intend to provide a process, an education process that accompanies citizens in their personal growth and understanding of very complex subjects, and allow them to have to provide their own recommendation that can be then subject to the remaining part of the democratic process. And this is also something that we also stress a lot. This is not a substitution of parliament. This is not total cancel of what's been our story so far. It's just providing citizens with the possibility of interacting further on what is their future, actually, and what is their, not only their future, but their present, actually. There is an additional results that we're aiming for, and it's actually very connected to the topic of voting that was mentioned before. In Italy, it is not currently possible to sign online as it was done for the European citizens initiatives, as can be done, for example, for Stop Global Warming. It was interesting when panelists before me mentioned in just 2 minutes you can do that. So in Italy, you can't do that in 2 minutes. Something is being done. So we hope by 2022, by law, we will have a more digital approach to citizenship. But for now, it is not possible. And with our campaign, we're trying to stress that, especially in pandemic times when it is sometimes not even safe enough to join a public square to sign for a public proposal, you could do that safely and securely and, quickly, efficiently from your own computer by proper personal identification. So that this is also an additional message that we're trying to stress. There shouldn't be any pandemic able to stop democracy or able to stop the ability for citizens to participate in the democratic debate. And so we are gathering signatures right now online. We will also do that possibly, hopefully, by the end of the year, also physically, but we are hoping to bring a message also on that side. So that concludes what I wanted to say. I would just add on a final note, since there is a great representation here of new generations as well. It was mentioned that citizens are not, the kind of bridge between citizens and institutions is shattering. It's not entirely broken, but it's definitely trembling. Younger generations are a big part of that trembling. It is often said that we have been we're growing more and more distant from the institutions, and we think that processes and democratic processes and deliberative processes of this kind would also help the younger generations together and in even measures with the other generations bring a new perspective and a helpful perspective to our new democracies. I hope I wasn't too long.
Thank you, Diletta. And also you saved us Italians from our accents, because it seems like, thanks a lot for saving the category. No, thanks Diletta Milana from Yezers and Politici per Caso for this presentation. And now we move and we kind of zoom out to go to Europe with Daniela Vancic from Democracy International and fellow coalition member of Citizens Take Over Europe. Daniela, let's try to put all of these ideas and proposals of citizen assemblies in the European scale. You have a difficult task, but you are super up for it, which is combining the institutional process of the Conference on the Future of Europe, which is probably not known by a lot of our members of the audience, together with concrete proposals for European citizen assemblies, so a European level. So the floor is yours.
Thanks a lot, Virginia, and thanks for this invitation. So yes, I'm Daniela from Democracy International. I'm also one of the founding members of the Citizens Take Over Europe coalition, along with Virginia. We were established as a coalition just about a year ago as a direct response to this delayed and really at the time also very unclear Conference on the Future of Europe. And I'll put the link in the chat right now too if you want to take a look at the coalition. We call really for a citizen-centered conference. It's going to give citizens this this space to look really closely and critically at the EU that we have right now, the EU as it stands today, the Lisbon Treaty that it stands today, and maybe most importantly, even lead to concrete action and follow up from the institutions. So at this point, we're a coalition of over 50 organizations. We've published many position papers, organized events, held meetings with the decision makers in the conference to make sure we do have this citizens-led conference. But our demands are not only limited to the conference itself and to its structure. We do demand that there is a permanent mechanism of citizens' assemblies that is established, because as you might have heard, these citizens panels, is what they're calling it, randomly selected groups of citizens will be chosen by lot, by sortition, to take part in the conference. And this is a form of participation that we very much like. As Stefano also mentioned, I will not give all the positive benefits to it, other than, of course, very innovative. It's allowing from all corners of Europe and those non-political citizens to take part. And we have already the great examples right in Europe that we can pull from that the other speakers have also mentioned. So we can follow some really good examples already. And actually, we like this form of participation so much that we call for a permanent EU Citizens Assembly, one which meets on a regular basis to come up with proposals for Europe. We've published a manifesto for an EU Citizens Assembly that really lays out our vision for this, and it has been signed by many prominent individuals in the field of participatory democracy and especially sortition. And just to make the connection maybe a little bit to the former speakers of the first panel, we were discussing about the ECI, and so one place where potentially, a permanent EU Citizens Assembly could be used is with the European Citizens Initiative, because we know that many ECIs have faced a bit of a challenge when getting a proper response from the European Commission once they are successful. But imagine if once they were successful, if they collected 1 million signatures in 1 year and they submitted that then they submitted their initiative to a citizens initiative review, a randomly selected citizens assembly that would review and report on the issues and decide what legislative course it can have. And this might be that extra level of pressure that the institutions will then need to also respond appropriately to successful ECIs. So this is just one way that we can think of how to involve permanent citizens assemblies. But okay, unfortunately, we don't have this just yet. The closest thing we do have to an EU Citizens Assembly is the Conference on the Future of Europe. This will be the first time ever in EU history that this practice will be carried out on this scale. It will be 940 citizens in total. So despite the big delay with the conference from the beginning, we are really eager to get this started. So I will also put out a call to action. I see that there were some call to actions, sign this, sign that. And I will just say, call to actions, keep your eyes and ears open and get involved in the conference when you have a chance to do it. There will be soon published any day now, a multilingual digital platform. And this is where anyone in the EU, whether you're one of the lucky ones to be chosen for the Citizens Assembly or not, you can add your idea and suggestion for Europe. And it sounds like maybe I'm getting paid to promote the conference. I don't work for the EU communications campaign for the conference or anything like that. I just think we have strength in numbers, and the more people that use these tools that are available and that submit then comments and suggestions and that organize events around the future of Europe, and especially civil society, the more of us that do that, then the more we can't be ignored, and we can get those reform proposals that we want to go forward. And lastly, coming back to citizens take over Europe and why we dedicate so much of our time and our sweat, blood, and tears to this conference is because we really truly believe that this has the potential to be a history-changing process for Europe. It is, if it's the conference that's really promised to us, and if we all continue to keep up the pressure, and we could be really experiencing the first steps of EU democratic reform before our eyes, maybe reaching a new treaty or new EU constitution, because never before, more than now, have politicians and civil society talked about amending the treaties. Whether some want to shy away from this or not, it's impossible now to at least ignore that big question that lies in front of us. So thanks also to the civil society organizations and coalitions like ours. I mean, it makes sure to keep these difficult questions at the top of the agenda. So that's it for now, and I look forward to the discussion.
Thank you, Daniela. And thanks, Stefano and Diletta, because we did really quite a European tour of possibilities of transformation for the local, regional, national, and supranational level. So whilst I invite people that are following us on Facebook or in the webinar to ask questions, which is always a good idea, I just want to quote Daniela on this, like, I think the difference of tonight, also in the way how we're talking about the European Union, is that exactly we're not promoting the European Union as such. I mean, of course, I guess we are all proud Europeans, but I think we are also trying to put it in discussion and in a critical manner, and to open up the opportunities for the reforms that are needed. Some reforms are more on the already existing competencies. There is a whole debate on which are the competencies of the European Union that could be expanded. Then we go into the field of the treaty changes, and I mean, it becomes more complicated. But I think looking at the European Union as a something that we can shape for real, and also strengthening the participatory democracy instruments so that they have a real impact, like this idea of connecting ECIs with citizen assemblies, is really what we are called for as citizens with political rights, which ultimately is the topic of tonight. So I see there is a question, no, comment questions here. So there are not yet questions. So first of all, around among the speakers, like, do we have questions for each other, like, or comments, something that resonated maybe from the different perspectives?
I have a quick question, actually. We talked about the citizen assemblies. So how people get notified when they're selected? Do they get a letter? Do they get a phone call?
And I will add another provocative question, which is, do people get paid for being part of citizen assemblies? Maybe Stefano, Daniela, that's mainly for you guys.
Both. They receive a letter, and they are paid. They receive a reimbursement of expenses, and so they can leave work and attend to activities to the laboratories and different workshops and so on.
And I suppose that makes a lot of sense, because they're actually doing a service for the community. they'll put their time at service of the community, and they'll do it putting their minds and their hearts in an unbiased way as much as possible to try and voice what the community would want to say, but just saying their point of view. And I think the system of selecting at random people will ensure that the community is represented. It sounds quite a crazy idea, picking people at random and then coming up with policies, but actually it works and is really quite an innovation. I have perhaps well, a little bit of time for other people's last questions, and I have another question.
I think, Manlio, you can ask your question in the meantime, like if there are questions. And
well, my question that is perhaps a lead to how to engage. I mean, we started the evening with I want to participate in democracy. I could not vote. I just go on the street. And then what else, other things you can do is have discussions with people that maybe having discussions may be rewarding. But if you want to make a policy change, you want to engage in order to make a policy change, we're given today examples of different mechanisms, the ECIs and the citizens' assemblies. My question to Virginia was, which I'm going to say to Virginia is, well, but if citizens want to activate, what they can do, and can you tell us the story about Eumans, perhaps, where citizens have activated in order to trigger this participation in democracy?
So before answering this question, I have a cliffhanger. So tonight I'm very literary in my images, but before I want to do a quick round of all our speakers with a question for you, which is, what drove you to be interested and active in politics and democracy? Like, you are not running for elections, I think. I don't know if you're planning to do that, but you are engaged in the political space. So maybe if you can share with all of us and also the people that are listening, what was your driving element in engaging so much? Because then I will go to reply to Manlio's question, but I really would like to know first-hand experience. Maybe also we can start from Antonia, because she's our host and she is running an event about EU citizens politics. So Antonia, maybe we start from you.
Sure. Hello to everyone who's watching. I've been here the entire time in the background, listening to all the fantastic speakers. It's been so interesting, but I thought I'd show my face for the last 10 minutes for the discussion. Yes, I think honestly, what got me involved in politics, I've always been very interested in civic engagement and being able to kind of use my voice. I started off in a youth council when I was 14 or 15 because, everything in Northern Ireland shuts at like 5 p.m. and there wasn't a lot of things for young people to do, and we wanted to have a place that was safe for us to go to, but have different activities. So we joined the youth council and we tried to campaign in that way. I think that for me was a catalyst in understanding what politics is, what civic engagement is, NGO work, things like that. And through my both academic journey and my work experience and career exploration, I guess, I started to look at different aspects of engaging, whether that's through civic engagement, such as running different campaigns, which is something that I'm working on now, working with human rights law, which is something I'm doing academically, or engaging with different NGOs and seeing how they approach different problems. I think what I have started to realize is you can always engage in so many different ways. If you're interested in politics, you could join a political party. If you're interested in NGO work, you could, try and volunteer for a local charity or an organization. Or if you just want to stay informed, you can register to vote. You can go out and make sure that your voice is heard in that way. There's so many different ways to stay engaged on so many different levels, depending on your time commitment, depending on, what you want to do, that I think it's a very open and exciting way for everyone to kind of do whatever they want to do. You know, there's so many different forms, and that's why I think a session such as today is really interesting, because, you know, it helps people get informed, but also tells them, you know, you don't have to go and become a politician if you want to be engaged. There's so many other ways that you can do it from the comfort of your own home. So yeah, that's a long-winded answer, but I think for me it was just figuring out that there are certain issues that are wrong, both on a national level, a global level, even on a local level, and trying to figure out how I can use my voice to help fix some of those issues. So that's me.
Thank you. Iago?
So for me, as a kid, certainly my first connection with politics, or with with maybe more society, was the anti-austerity protests that there were in Spain, particularly in Barcelona, where I was raised. That really impacted me a lot. And maybe that was the decision why I now study politics. But studying it, I felt like maybe sometimes, I don't know if this has happened to you, but when you study something, it's like you need to step outside to see it from another perspective, and then you feel disconnected from it, you know? So I was studying what I loved, but then I wasn't feeling very part of it. So, and then I looked for ways in which I could directly take part in something, and Voters Without Borders was one of those ways. And then of course Brexit happened. I moved to London, and I was very much involved in this. And yeah, I think that's my sort of my path.
Thank you, Iago. Stefano, that you used the term adversative democracy as an example. It's interesting.
I think to me it's my job since 1998. So what can I say? It's democracy. It's a value in itself, and also it helps the impact of politics. So I think it's a value, and also work on deliberative democracy is also a way to let the policies have a real impact on people's life. I am an economist, and I studied political economy, and I think that involving people is a real effective way to have a better policies.
Thank you, Stefano. Daniela, also because you have so many different national backgrounds, like what's your story? How you ended up here tonight?
Yeah, thanks for. I think this is such an interesting question that we don't speak about enough somehow in these kind of panels with so many unique speakers. Yeah, I mean, for me personally, it's really a question of identity and like how I see myself in the world and like in my community. And I saw in myself that I had this kind of responsibility to do something to give back, because you just see so many injustices in the world, and in comparison, I feel like I come from such a place of privilege, and I feel like personally this is just a strong responsibility, you know, a personal responsibility to do something and to give back and lift others up and help in some way. And of course, not me alone. I mean, I really don't think one person can do anything alone, but you know, I mean, we're all just one drop in a big ocean. So that's why the work of civil society is also so important. And I'm also really passionate about voting rights and ending disenfranchisement. Actually, in my volunteer work, I help Americans that live here overseas to be able to vote back in the US, because the voting process from overseas is really difficult, and a lot of people are really pushed out of the process. And I really think, I mean, just in general, our vote and our organizing power and our effort is really our voice. And until that can be taken away, then nothing really can be taken away. So we need to fight for this and as much as we can.
Thank you, Daniela. Manlio, you told us at the beginning that was Brexit your spark?
Yeah, that was the trigger that kindled the fire. It's not my job, but I think in general it's because I'm passionate about my values. And for me, democracy is a value. and the common good is a value. But also I'm here because I'm looking for ways where I can have an impact, or at least there is a possibility of having an impact. So I'm passionate to try and convey the energies and the little energies that we have to do something that could have eventually bring that historical change that Daniela was talking about, because we need it. We definitely need it, and we need to play our part.
Thank you, Manlio. So I go back to your question and guide us toward the conclusion, also because part of this panel is unapologetically about what we are trying to do with Eumans. So it's good to advertise for ourselves as well. We launched Eumans 2 years ago with a very interesting political activist in Italy, who is Marco Cappato. And I tell his story because I think it's quite powerful. Marco is fighting for the new rights for end-of-life decisions in Italy. And the organization through which he does that, Associazione Luca Coscioni, gained historically results in the reforms in Italy on this matter without sitting for one day in the parliament. So the action was carried on through participatory democracy bills proposed in Italy, civil disobedience actions to challenge the law and basically to self-sue yourself, like doing something that is against the law and bring it publicly, so that then there is a judiciary case on the matter that creates a precedent and a sentence and a historical sentence, and so transforming also the law, combining strategic litigation as an instrument. And this story is quite powerful because it shows that politics is not just about the elections. And what we're trying with Eumans is to, pass me the term, make politics great again, in the sense that there are so many ways, and we have seen only some of them tonight, to try and have an impact. And what is the real impact of politics? It's changing the laws, transforming society and guaranteeing laws that make society more sustainable, based on civil rights or fundamental rights, guarantees. We are in a time where decisions need to be made. I mean, let's forget the pandemic for 1 minute, all of us. But there are really big challenges that cannot be held hostages by the fight for electoral consensus. This is the idea that we had with Eumans, like how to create a movement of citizens that can be Eumans for one day. You don't need to be Eumans forever, but it's like, I have this thing that I want to fight for, and how I can connect with other citizens, or through Eumans to connect with organizations and across Europe to bring my goal closer to this impact result. So this is what we try to Eumans. Our slogan is make change happen for sustainability and democracy through the activation of participatory democracy instrument. This doesn't mean that we don't collaborate with those that sits in the parliaments. They are quite essential because they are those who finally and ultimately makes the decision in the major part of the cases. But the whole project of Eumans started from giving a platform for, let's say, normal citizens to try and transform that instinct that all of you described of something that needs to be changed into a process that activates this mechanism of change. So this is what Eumans is super self-organized. So the idea is that you can join Eumans either because you share one of the ongoing initiatives, like the carbon pricing one that we presented tonight, but also you can propose your own initiative and create the network and leverage the instruments that we develop all together to achieve that goal in a better manner. It's a membership-based organization, so every person, I mean, not only European, but whoever, can become a member of Eumans, which means that you support economically the activities that we do, but you also take part in our own definition of the rules that a pan-European citizens movement should have and can have. but it doesn't mean that you need to pay for being part of Eumans. You can engage in any of the ongoing initiatives or bring your initiative within the Eumans network. This is what happened with Voters Without Borders, like Manlio and Anpari and other people learned about Voters Without Borders, and so we presented it to the Eumans community and we started our collaboration with that. So open movement, an opportunity to try and do something, and activating in the framework of the rule of law and the functioning of democratic institutions, which doesn't mean that they cannot be reformed. So that's a bit the story. I really want to, I think Antonia is wrapping us up, but I really want to thank Manlio for organizing this, and Antonia and the 3 Millions for giving us this opportunity to have this very important conversation on what can be done by each individual European citizen already.
Thank you very much, Virginia, and I hope everyone has enjoyed this session. We talked about innovation, and if you want to know more about Eumans, go to the website Eumans.eu, and do remember to register to vote for the local election. You have it until the 19th of April, and participate in the election. Antonia, thank you very much, and I'll pass it on to you to wrap up.
Yes, thank you so much. It was so wonderful to hear from all our fantastic speakers today. Thank you again for such an informative and interesting discussion. You know, I, for one, definitely learned a lot, and I hope that everyone watching did as well. If you want to follow up, we have all the links on our Facebook. If you're watching on Facebook, you've seen them already, but feel free, if you're watching this on YouTube later on, because time is fun, to check out our Facebook page, and all the links will be linked in there. And feel free to message the 3 Million if you want to get involved in either any of our campaigns or any of the campaigns mentioned tonight, and we will direct you to the correct people to talk to. So thank you again so much, everybody, today for watching, and thank you to our fantastic panelists for coming. And I will wrap it up there, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of your evening to everybody.
Thank you very much.